Hey there, everybody. I'm joined once again by Steve to continue our Forgotten CCG uh, ongoing series. And today we're going to do a deeper dive on the Battlestar Galactica game. So this is the game that won our poll. And so folks want a little more information about it. So we've gotten some starter decks. Well, I should say Steve bought some starter decks. I'm going to get a starter deck. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a review of the starter deck, a closer look at some of the cards today. And then next week or in future weeks, we're going to figure out how to play this thing and do a bit of a tutorial over the internet and see how that works. I will just say that I did pick up some pirate CCG.
Nice.
So I think I might open these at some point and build these little ships. So that's a separate topic, but we're talking about Battlestar here. So that's something fun for later so I can have little paper ships. But Steve, I'd love to kind of hear what you've gotten this stuff.
Yeah.
What does it look like? How does it feel? What do the cards look like? What's the starter deck? The starter deck was very cheap. It was like $8, I think, right?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, it's a very, very inexpensive starter deck. Yeah, so here's the starter deck. This is what it looks like when you get it.
An odd shaped starter. I mean, it's even like big, right?
Yeah, it's much bigger than the starter decks for Star Trek, Star Wars, or even the classic Magic starter deck size. It's about twice as big, and it's got these sort of this octagonal shape to it with the cut corners, which is a shout out to the show, where in the show all the paper looks like this for some unknown reason. Yeah, so you
like in this alternative reality, they only have octagonal paper. It's like the decision they made.
Yeah, I think like in my Battlestar Galactica knowledge, I think the 1970s show was like this, and then the Ronald Moore reboot version kept certain little nods of the 70s show, like their use of kind of goofy sci-fi swear words, as well as the octagonal paper.
I do love frack. That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So yeah, there's just one starter deck, and it looks like this, and the face card is a foil Battlestar Galactica, which we'll open in a couple of minutes. Take a look at that. It's a 62 card starter deck, and what this deck is it's actually made up of two 31 card decks, so two mini decks. So one person could buy this, and that person and their friend could each play a demo game with the 31 card mini decks. And then you could shuffle them together and turn it into a real 60 card deck. You take out two cards. We can talk about that later, why that is. But yeah, so that's how they design it. I think that's not a terrible idea. I mean, compare that to like the Star Wars CCG Premier starter decks, which are not even real starter decks.
I'm a big fan of starter decks being able to like decks to go. I think that is the approach. That's what these should be. They should be. You can purchase something for $12 and play a game with a friend and decide if you want to purchase a bunch of booster packs.
Yes,
that should be the aim.
So in this way, this game feels more like a modern collectible game, where that's usually the norm, I think. Yeah, let's open this. I've already opened up. When you open it up, you've got these two mini decks, and we can go through them and take a look at the cards as well as the rule books. So I'll pull the rule books out first. And another thing about this that's quite modern and much more user-friendly compared to some of the other games we talk about, it's got the regular rule book, the complete rules.
Also octagonal.
Also, everything is going to be octagonal in this game, including the cards, as we'll get to. And it's got the quick start rules. And what I like about the quick start rules is it's going to be a guided tutorial through the game. And for those of you who play like modern sort of tabletop board games, Euro games, whatever, a lot of those games have something similar where they're going to literally walk you through the game. Turn one, you do this. Turn two, you do that. And that's what this game does. It guides you through the first 5 turns of your game, telling you exactly what you should play and what your opponent should play. And they facilitate that by having these mini decks be stacked in a certain way. And they warn you not to shuffle your deck, but if you happen to do that by accident, they tell you how to reorder them. But yeah, you use these stacked decks to play a guided game, which I think is really, really helpful for learning a game like this. It is somewhat complicated.
Absolutely. I appreciate the sort of like, these are what you should do in your first 5 turns. Seems like a lot. I like the first 3 turns, and then it's sort of, but it's good to have that hand holding there.
Yeah. I think, yeah, even more modern games do it better. They do just guide you to the first couple turns, and then you can just have free play. This one actually guides you through an entire mini game where by the end of turn 5, one of the players is going to lose, which is kind of interesting when they script that. So one of the two of you will end up not winning that game, and it's predetermined which one that is. But then at the end, they say like, okay, now just go ahead and shuffle these and play it again, and you can see how it would be when it's not scripted, which is nice. And then in the back, they have the deck order in case they get out of order. Okay, and yeah, just one thing that's interesting about this game, looking at the rules, is that one of the game designers is Chuck Callenbach, who's a Decipher alum who designed the Star Wars CCG, and I think he might have done the Star Trek game as well. You can definitely see some of those Decipher games' DNA in this game, as well as some of the lessons learned, which I think we'll see as we go through it. But let's go through these decks a little bit. The first one, so there's 2 mini decks, and one is themed around the Battlestar Galactica and its crew, a more military-focused deck. And the other one is focused around Colonial One, which is President Roslin's ship, and it's a more political influence-focused deck, I think. So going through these, and I've read through both the starter rules and the complete rules. I'm beginning to get a sense of how this game works, and maybe in our next video I'll have an even better handle on it. But this is your base card, and it starts outside of the game, and you can pick from among a number of different base cards, and it gives you 2 to start with, the Colonial One and the Battlestar Galactica. And then the rest of the deck is your draw deck. And so we'll just take a look through these. But before we get that, thinking about these cards, like this is what the card back looks like. I think it's a pretty nice design card back that's very on theme for.
Something about the color is surprising. Like the fact it's light blue, you don't really see like a lot of. I don't know. I didn't expect the cards to look like that. I'll just say.
Yeah, I think it's meant to maybe be the uniform the characters are wearing.
That's right. Yeah, I think they all kind of wear this like powder blue, not powder blue, periwinkle.
Mm-hmm. I'm doing a rewatch of the show right now with some other online friends. I think we're about mostly through season 1. So yeah, some of these details I'm picking back up. It's got the mission patch for the ship on there. It's a good looking card back. The rest of the cards, though, I'm a little unimpressed with them. I think the paper quality is not great on these. They're pretty flimsy. They actually feel like some of the worst Magic the Gathering cards. We went through like a phase like maybe 2 years ago where the paper quality got real bad and people were complaining online. It feels like that or worse quality. It's actually some of the lowest quality CCG paper I've felt. And you can see like you have these beveled edges, and they're actually really prone to chipping and nicking. So I haven't even played with these, but out of the box, and none of these are in what I would call like mint or even maybe not in near mint condition. A lot of them have like a little white around the edges because of this beveling. You can see some of it here.
It also just none of these fit in a card sleeve, right? You put this in a card sleeve.
Yes.
I mean, I guess they fit, but they're just awkward.
I think I mentioned in the last video, I got this exact deck when I was in college, almost 20 years ago, and I tried to sleeve it up, and yeah, I got these floppy sleeve corners, and it's really weird. So yeah, not that this game is like valuable or collectible really, so I guess you don't really worry about it, but yeah, this is going to be really hard to keep these in collectible condition. So anyway, going through these. Yeah, so I'll just go through each deck really quickly and take a look, and I can talk about some interesting things that come up. So this card is Shuttle Diplomacy. It's a mission card, and we'll go through the rules in more detail, I think, in the next video. But the key mechanic here is you're trying to gain influence for your side and reduce the influence of your opponents. And I think I mentioned this in the last video. No one is playing a Cylon faction deck. Everyone is playing a faction of the Colonial Fleet. In fact, I don't even think they have specific factions because the personnel, the characters all mix and match.
So
Um,
just jumping in, so it's not a battle between humanity and Cylons. It's a
no,
battle for control of the galactic fleet, essentially.
of the global fleet, yes,
Oh, interesting.
the surviving humans fleet, which is interesting. I That's a choice they made. I'm not. I'd be very curious to know why they made that choice, because that does happen in the show, right? There's like a number of times it's like political, like the civilians versus the military. There are different factions in the show, but to me, that's not really the core of the show. I don't know. Maybe other people disagree, but for me, the show is about the struggle for that fleet to survive, dwindling resources, constant silent attacks, and the question of who are the Cylons amongst the fleet. So yeah, when we play this game, it'll be interesting to see how thematic this game actually feels.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the point about like having a war between the humans and the Cylons in the show, it's just like not even a clear fight. Like it's like the Cylons actually have an army that the humans are just like 40,000 people flying around, right? Like, and so it's not really a fair fight,
It would have to be,
militarily.
yeah, maybe an asymmetric game or something. Now there are silent attacks in this game, and how that works is um, there's a certain like a thing called the silent threat indicator in this game, and as that ticks up, if it ever exceeds the fleet's defense value, then the Cylons will attack. And how that happens is you are revealing cards off the top of your deck, and you're using their Cylon threat number, which I can show you in a second. And if the card has special Cylon game text on it, then that will come into play in certain circumstances. So just like Boomer, for instance, spoiler alert for the show from 20 years ago, but Boomer is a Cylon. So her character card, she does not come in the starter deck, but she is um, a a colonial personnel Viper pilot Cylon. So she does one thing if she is in play as a personnel, but she does something else if she's drawn off the top of your deck during a Cylon attack. So that can, yeah, anyway. So in some ways, I mean, I feel a little bit like the Cylon element of this is almost like Lord of the Rings TCG, where every player will play Shadow at some point. Only in this game, there aren't like a dedicated, there isn't a dedicated half of your deck that is Cylon. It's that
Mm.
every card has a Cylon number. So like looking at these here, the red number here on this card, which is a 0, this is the Cylon threat number for this card. Different ones have different threat numbers. It's a 3 on this card. And when it comes into play, it's going to be raising the Cylon threat level by 3. And if it's drawn during a Cylon attack, then that number 3 is the number that's used that you're kind of like battling against. Anyway, that's kind of the whole Cylon thing works, and the basic idea of battling for influence and sometimes Cylons attack. And if you can defeat the Cylons during their attack, then your faction gains influence. That's why you usually, it seems like you want to try to defeat the Cylons when they attack.
Okay, and remind me, is there only how many sets are there for this game?
There are 2 sets for it, I
Okay,
believe.
so there's not a lot of additional game mechanics that get added in later sets. It's like really
I don't think so. Yeah,
okay.
actually, one thing that's interesting the rulebook says is that this game, it has a discard pile like many CCG games do. It also has an area called like the destroyed area, I think, the removed from the game area, and it says abandoned cards, killed personnel, and destroyed assets go here. This zone is not used in the first set. So things related to, I guess, like assassinations or like destroyed assets doesn't happen in the base set. Things are discarded, but they're never like permanently removed. So I'm wondering if the first expansion added that. I don't know yet. And incidentally, like I think the game only covers the first 2 seasons of the show. So, and in fact, in the start deck, I'm not even sure I'm seeing any cards from. Maybe there's like one card from season 2. It's primarily early season 1 stuff. These
So
cards.
I guess the run for this might have just been, maybe it ran for the first 2 seasons, didn't sell, They gave
Yeah,
up on the IP, moved on, right?
that's exactly right. I think it came out in either, well, I've already forgotten from my or other video, but I think it came out in '05 or '06, and it was
Hmm.
canceled 1 year later in like '07. So thinking back, I think season 3 was coming out in 2007. So yeah, so they wouldn't have had the assets for season 3 yet. Um, anyway, let's go back to the decks then. So yeah, get this mission card, shuttle diplomacy, and this is another thing I want to point out. Like, one I think is one of the drawbacks of this game. Like, a lot of the images are, I think, publicity stills, which to me are like one of the lazier ways of doing images. Like, I don't believe this is in the show. I think this is like Jamie
A
Bam. What
promo
was his name?
poster or something, right?
His name, the actor, not Jamie Bamber, but the actor who played Baltar is like publicity photo, his promo photo.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, that is kind of like a very lazy way of doing it. And I mean, it just also makes me appreciate things like Decipher doing like such creative things with movie stills. It's like we're going to create a very immersive series of card games with just movie stills.
oh yeah, well, for Star Trek and Star Wars, they went through and found the exact right split second of Vader like rising through the carbonite steam to be Dark Lord of the Sith, whatever. This game, I did not take that effort, I don't think. All right, moving through here, we've got an event called Fire Support. Looks like that's the Galactica's cannons. Here is a Skirmishing Cylon Raider. So this is one of these cards where it's got like a really high Cylon threat number of 4, and then it does something if it's drawn as a Cylon card. And it also, once again, has, I believe this is an image from the opening credits. So kind of a lazy image there.
So there's not like any of these cards that like really pop out from like a collector standpoint. I mean, like that foil Galactica was kind of cool, but it seemed also, generic-ish. But there's no
I think
images.
the foil Galactica is the best card in the starter deck, I'll say right
Okay.
now. We'll see if anything else looks cooler, but this to me is an iconic image, and the foil looks not bad. Yeah, that's probably the best one. Here's a Colonial Viper 113. That's a ship in the game. Another thing to point out about this game is that, talking about the resources a little bit, this game has 3 resources in it. It's got, let me make sure I'm saying these correctly. I think it's persuasion, logistics, and security. So if you're looking at these cards, I'm not sure how well this is, you can view this, but there's these little icons in this area right here. The little person at the top is persuasion. Logistics is like this, I don't know, maybe a pencil or something. And then security is the Galactica icon. And whatever number is next to that tells you which resource it needs and how many of them. So this Viper needs 3 security to bring into play. And this was one mechanic that does seem like it's going to be pretty user-friendly. Every card can be played either as itself, so like as a ship, like a Viper, or you can play it in your asset row, think like kind of like in Magic where your mana goes, as an asset that generates that type of currency, basically. So if you don't want to play this Viper as a Viper, you can play it as a security asset. So it generates 1 security there.
Well, that's kind of nice. Final Fantasy TCG does something kind of similar where you can discard a card to get mana. Like, I think that's like a good way of making sure you don't get mana screwed. Like just having that sort of variety.
A lot of games coming out in this time frame, like the early to mid 2000s, are doing that. Versus, which is a game I played a lot of back in that time frame, allowed you to put any card face down as essentially a mana. In this game, it's not every card, but it's personnel and ships all generate a resource at the bottom, and as well as your base. So the Galactica generates security, and the Colonial One generates presence. All right, so then and then there's another interesting thing about this game. You can play one. You have to play 1 card per turn, or you can play 1 card per turn as an asset, and then an alternative way of generating resources is you can play any card from your hand face down on top of, like, let's say you have this Galactica out. You can play any other card face down underneath it to boost the resources generating by 1. So it'd make it be security 2 rather than security 1. So you can burn absolutely any card to boost the one you already have in play, which I think is kind of an interesting idea. All right, we'll go through these a little faster then. Got this Viper. We looked at this. There's a lot of duplicates you'll see. Here's a Raptor 227. Another ship.
That's once again just like not a cool image of a raptor. Right?
Blurry,
like pretty cool looking. This is not a cool image.
No, there's a million better Raptor images. Duplicate Raptor, duplicate Skirmishing Raider.
Also very lame.
Yes. Here is William Adama. He is a fixed version. And I should say that you, on these cards, it tells you the set and the rarity here. It might be hard to read this, but this is the fixed version of Adama for the starter set. Adama Patriotic Soldier.
And also just looks like it might be a movie, like not a still, but like a promo thing or something.
Could be, yeah. Again, it's not like this is not the iconic Adama image by any means. It costs 5 security to bring into play, so he's one of the heavier hitters in the deck, I think. Another Viper 113. Here is Crashdown. I like Sam Witwer, so it's good to have a card of him in here.
I don't remember that character Crashdown.
He's in the first season, and where I'm rewatching right now, I don't actually remember what happens to him, so I have a hunch he doesn't make it very long in the show. But I know him more for his like voice acting and video game stuff. He's the voice actor and model for Starkiller from the Force Unleashed video games, Vader's Secret Apprentice.
Oh yeah,
and he looks just like the actor in there, so it's kind of fun to see him. I think he does some Clone Wars voice acting too. I forget who he voices. Here's another not ideal Raptor image, Raptor 563.
Yeah, it's just like that's like just a dot.
Yeah, dot. Duplicate. Another Crashdown. Another fire support. Raptor. You get a foil of the Viper 113. Yeah, looks not bad. Kind of a cool one. This is condition 1. Set condition 1 throughout the fleet. So let you ready it. So this is an event. Basically, this is your interrupt or instant of BSG CCG, a one-time use thing. Lets you ready one target, and readying is essentially equivalent to untapping in this game. So if we play this, I think you'll see that a lot of this game is going to feel like kind of a mashup of mechanics, good mechanics, but mechanics from like Magic, Star Wars, Star Trek, and Lord of the Rings. Another shuttle diplomacy. You get a foil of the fixed William Adama. Okay, this is probably the most heinous image in this whole starter deck. This is an iconic image of Starbuck. This is the Starbuck you know and love, right?
Bo-Katan now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kitty Sackhoff would not be pleased with this. No, I mean, this is like, I think this is when she was sent in to be a sharpshooter to take out Tom Zarek on the prison ship in season 1. So this is the sharpshooter version of her. Cool, but like, why is her face?
I mean, it's just like you could have like lightened it up a little bit. You could have. It's just it feels like lazy.
Or taken the image of her before she departed when she was given the orders. It's like a bunch. Yeah, I'm not pleased with this. That's like a part of these games. Like, people might want to take this to a convention and get Katie Sackhoff to autograph it. No one is going to take this card for an autograph.
Yeah.
This one's kind of a cool one, though. The investigation. This is from the episode of the mission, from the episode where like Six shows up calling herself Shelley Godfrey, and he can't tell, Gaius Baltar can't tell anyone that she's a Cylon because that would out himself as a basically he was like a collaborator with her. So he's trying, and she's like trying to frame him as the person responsible for taking down the fleet. Investigation, another Viper. I don't think there's anything else new in here. Yeah, the rest of the deck is just duplicates of ones we already saw. So that's the Galactica deck. We'll quickly go through the Colonial one. So this one is, I guess, more presence focused. There are some different cards in it. So Colonial one is your base. But a lot of the cards are going to be similar. Here's Outmaneuvered, another event. It's going to reduce the power of your opponent's ships. When we get to play the game, there's you're going to be challenging your opponent. That's kind of like the battle of this game, where your personnel will challenge opponent's personnel, and your ships will challenge opponent's ships. You have a very straightforward one-to-one battle, very Magic-like, with the exception that you will draw and reveal a card off the top of your deck, which has a number in blue on it called the Mystic Value, aka the Destiny number.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be adding, that's the random variable that you'll add to your power to compare and see what's more. Then you can play cards like this that will reduce the power of your opponent's ships or personnel. And the defeated one is discarded, and the winning one wins and raises and lowers your opponent's influence. A very straightforward battle mechanic. Raptor, a different Raptor 342. Slightly better image, but still not great.
Yeah.
I like this one though. This is a presidential candidate. It's a political event.
Oh, that's great. I like that picture of, that's a good picture.
That's a good one. I think this is the one card from season 2, because I think he runs for president in season 2.
Yeah, he's like so bored by the process.
Until he unexpectedly wins. Billy Kaikia. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. Billy meets. I don't want to spoil. No spoilers.
No, it's funny. I cannot remember what happens to Billy. So yeah, don't spoil me, because I don't think he makes it beyond season 2, but we'll see.
I think it's something very tragic. I also looked up how Crashdown dies. I'm not going to tell you, but he does not make it.
No, he does not make it. Yeah, plenty of spoilers for the 20-year-old show here. Billy is such a funny character. He is really like the avatar for all like mid-20s doing your first kind of like government or business job. Maybe
he's
watches
like
sci-fi.
Has like a crush on like somebody at like the different agency, right?
Yeah, she kissed him once during the day the world ended, and now
he thinks like, he'll love your life forever. Life. Yeah.
Here's Laura Roslin. She's the fixed version of Laura Roslin, Madam President. So she's got like a high presence cost and some goods. Like I think this is a power number. More shuttle diplomacy, a luxury liner ship. This is a ship that costs presence rather than security. Has a 1 power, I think. A colonial shuttle, another presence-based ship. Luxury liner. Billy. Press junket. This one also looks very much like a publicity still for the show.
Press junket. Yeah, that looks.
Okay, finally a decent Raptor. Yeah, this is the only good Raptor shot so far. Luxury liner, Raptor 101. Hilo, okay. Not quite sure why they put him in the influence-based deck, but yeah, good to see Carl Agathon here. He has logistics cost to bring him in.
Hilo, big fan of Hilo.
Yeah, Hilo's great.
He's one of those characters you didn't expect to be like a protagonist for a long time, right? It's like, oh,
he's a solid dude.
Yeah.
I think he was recently. He was supposed to die in the miniseries. He stayed behind on Caprica, and people liked him in the miniseries so much they brought him back. More Hilo. Condition 1. Press junket. Colonial shuttle. I don't think there's any more new cards in here. Yeah. You have a foil Laura Roslin, and that's gonna end the deck. A lot of duplicates in here. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've got to say about the decks until we start to play them to see how this game plays. And yeah, I have mixed feelings after reading it and looking at the cards about whether this is actually a good game or not. So I'm curious to try it out at some point.
Yeah. So I guess we'll wrap it up here. And so we do want to get a game kind of going. We'll figure out how to do it digitally here. But everybody, thanks for tuning in. Please leave comments, thoughts in the comment section. So that's the right place to put it. And we'll kind of be continuing this series with different videos and different forgotten CCGs. So appreciate everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.